Additional aids and services are available to individuals with disabilities. To make such a request, please contact us by email, by clicking the Help tab in the PD portal, or at pdportal@tamu.edu, by phone, including Relay Texas at 1-800-441-7323, or in writing to Train PD, PD Portal Support, 4477 TAMU, College Station, Texas 77843. Both a transcript and accessible document of the content presented in this webinar can be found as resources in the course description. Click on the blue links under Course Resources in the description. When a link is clicked, a new browser window will open.
So you're here for I've Got the Power Skills, presented by Victoria Hinojosa and Anastasia Tristan. Our first presenter is Victoria Hinojosa, and Victoria Hinojosa has a passion for helping people find their professional paths, and she spent 10 years assisting individuals with job preparation and career exploration. She spent over 8 years working with the Career Services Office at Texas State University, not only helping the college students prepare for professional jobs, but also creating professional development opportunities for the student workers staff under her supervision. So in her current role as a college navigator for Workforce Solutions, she works closely with adult education and literacy programs in the Houston-Galveston region to create presentations and workshops that assist AEL students in mastering the English language, preparing for the job search, and finding their career paths. Victoria is a graduate of Texas State University with a BA in Mass Communications. We also have Anastasia Tristan, and Anastasia is a native Houstonian who is a college graduate from Sweetbriar College with a degree in political science. She recently joined the Workforce Solutions team as a college navigator. She's community-oriented and has a passion for bridging the gap between resources and individuals experiencing adversity. So she aspires to one day run for President of the United States.
There we go. Hey! All right, so welcome to I've Got the Power Skills presentation. This is our webinar today. I'm Victoria Hinojosa. I will be one of your hosts, and with me today is my colleague, Miss Anastasia Tristan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anastasia Tristan. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're so excited.
Yes, we are. So we've got a great webinar for you today. We're going to talk all about power skills. What we're going to do today is define what a power skill is, and then discuss the top 5 power skills employers are looking for, provide some activities that you can use in your classroom to help develop these power skills among your students, and then reveal the superpower skill and how to develop it. So we started off with a little word search to kind of get your brain going. Hey, positivity, somebody got it.
Yeah.
So because these power skills are actually pretty heady stuff. You have to really engage your brain in a lot of these in the development of them. So here we go.
Yeah. If y'all can find emotional intelligence,
Oh, somebody got creativity. Good job.
Nice.
All right. Emotional intelligence is the gold star, though. If you could get that one, you guys are sharp.
Yeah. Ooh, someone got part of listening.
There's more to it.
Yeah. Jasmine in the chat said growth mindset. She saw growth mindset. Awesome.
Oh,
there it is.
Okay, growth mindset. Somebody got it. Okay. There you go.
There you go. Active listening.
There we go. Work ethic. Ooh,
communication. Oh, collaboration. Growth mindset at the bottom.
Okay, time management. You found it.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, judgment. Someone got judgment. Good job.
I mean, these are commonly known soft skills, but also personal skills. And the words you found in the word search are some great examples of soft skills. But before we move forward, we want to briefly touch base on hard skills because there are some unique differences between soft skills and hard skills. So they are technical skills, but hard skills is something you can measure. They are measurable. Hard skills, you can take like a typing test to see how fast you can type, or a welder may have to take an exam to measure his knowledge on welding, or even how to draw blood, how well you can perform the procedure. Hard skills get your foot in the door, whereas soft skills help you climb up the corporate ladder. And so in the next slide, we have the power skills we are going to be talking about. And out of this list, so those are soft skills, but those skills are building blocks to higher skills, which are power skills. And these are skills that employers are mainly looking out for. And the first one that we're going to talk about is actually critical thinking.
Critical thinking. So let's start with this one. The definition of this is the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment. I saw another definition that says that effective critical thinking requires the ability to actively and skillfully conceptualize, apply, analyze, synthesize, and evaluate information to make a judgment or formulate an innovative solution. So people with the strong critical skills can solve issues skillfully, independently, and find new approaches to complex problems using those analytical skills. So with that, critical thinking allows you to understand and address situations based on all the available facts and information right there. From there is a process, but within critical thinking, there are actually 5 other skills that are utilized in the process of critical thinking. So the first one is observation. Think about the most observant person or character in the world is going to be Sherlock Holmes. That guy can just look at you and observe a whole list of things about you, right? He can just start observing and then inferring all these different things about you. Not everybody has that kind of skill, but you can develop it. And when you do that, that just makes you more aware of what's going on in your environment. You're able to spot things. You can actually start to predict things. You can see it. You're like, ooh, I see a potential issue here, based on just the information right in front of your face. And one way that you can do that to really start developing that observation skill, because not everybody has it, sometimes you have to stop and take a deep breath and observe what is going on around you. One of the ways to develop that is to journal. They talk about journaling as a way to reflect back on your day and start checking off things. I'm like, okay, this is what happened. This is what happened. So it kind of helps bring it back. And then you can also kind of work through some of the things that happened during the day. Another thing that you can do to really help your observation skills is develop your active listening skills. So active listening is a way to also train you to really pay attention to what people are saying. And it's not just what they say with their words, but also their body language, the way they say it, and also what's really going on between the lines. So critical thinking is another really good, strong way to help develop your observation skills. So from there, we move into analysis. Once the problem has been identified, the next step is to analyze and evaluate the situation based on the present facts and data. So this also may include gathering unbiased research, asking relevant questions about the data to access the findings objectively. Then our third skill on the list is inference. So this skill involves drawing conclusions based on the information you collect. So sometimes you may not have everything, but based on what you're seeing, you can start to make inferences. You could start to draw conclusions, right? And then develop some answers or develop some ideas based on the limited data provided. So then once you've done that, the next step is to communicate. So communication skills become really important when it's time to explain and discuss the issues with your colleagues and other stakeholders. So learning how to present that data or that information objectively, calmly, especially if you know you're going to get pushback, because maybe somebody wants something done their way and the facts are saying your way's not going to work, but their ego may have gotten involved, and so it's what they want. So you have to learn how to deal with that and how to calmly express what the data states, right? And it's yeah, this skill set is crucial, especially when you're engaging in difficult discussions or situations where you know there's going to be a disagreement. And again, the best way to help develop your communication skills is through active listening, to understand, so you can learn how to understand the opposing point of view. So when you do that, I don't know how familiar you are with active listening, but one of the keys to active listening is, of course, you are kind of paraphrasing back to the person what it is that you're hearing. So that's a great way then to okay, I'm hearing you say this, but here's, and then you could say, so let me ask you this question. Based on that, what you've just said, have you thought about this? Or do you see that I hear what you're saying, but here's what the data is now saying. And these two do not coincide. So we're going to have to do something different, right? It allows you to remain objective. And that's the whole key point. Calm and objective. It does, it helps you stay grounded so you don't get your emotions involved. Other people may get their emotions involved because, again, egos may be at stake. Who knows? But when that starts to happen, by just, again, restating the facts, then you're able to maintain calm and then hopefully bring these people back into a more logical conversation as opposed to an emotional conversation. Then the last skill set that's part of the critical thinking package is problem solving. So at this point, you've identified, you've analyzed, and now it's time to develop and execute a solution. So from here is the process. So you're going to identify that problem or issue. That's through observation. Then create an inference on why the problem exists and how to solve it. That's inference and analyzation. Then research and collect information or data on that issue. Then organize and sort your data and findings, develop and execute solutions, analyze which solutions worked or didn't work, and to identify ways to improve the solution. So think about some problems that you can develop, especially for those of you who are teaching IET classes. This is a great list that you can use to help your students work through problems that come up in their chosen field, in their industry. So get them to work through this process, and that will also help develop their critical thinking skills. Another way in which you can develop some of the other skills within critical thinking is, again, train your students in the art of active listening so that they can develop that observation and communication skills. And then another good way to really develop their analytical and inference skills is through those logic puzzles. So I don't know if you guys are fans of the checkout stand. Instead of looking at the magazines, I love the puzzle books. And so one of the puzzles that I'm always drawn to are those logic puzzles. So they'll give you some crazy scenario like, one summer the knock-kneed knights of the round table each took a week's annual leave in successive weeks, spending his holiday in a cottage he owned, all at different locations. So from the clues given below, can you work out which knight had which week off, say where he spent it, and work out the name that he gave to his cottage? So those types of puzzle questions are really, really good for developing those analytical inference skills. Okay, so from here, now that you got your brain engaged, the next thing is we want to move into empathy.
Yes, and we're actually going to watch a movie clip from Inside Out that showcases empathetic listening, in other words, active listening, which is a fantastic trait to help develop empathy. So let's click play.
No! No! No, you can't take my rocket to the dust! Riley and I are going to the moon! Riley can't be done with me.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. We can fix this. We just need to get back to headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster. Hey, Bing Bong, look at this. Oh, here's a fun game. You point to the train station and we all go there. Won't that be fun? Come on, let's go to the train station.
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved. It's gone. Forever.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time, we had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness.
It sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now. Come on.
Ugh.
Train station is this way.
Oh,
It always gets me. I love that
I
movie.
love that clip.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you can clearly see, who was sympathetic and who was empathetic. And, empathy, as you can see, is understanding other situations, even to the extent of putting yourself in their shoes. And I will go more into detail debriefing the video once I share with you some empathy exercises, but Joy, the yellow character, was focused on getting herself to the train station. She did not show much care to what he had just lost. Sadness, the blue one, was hearing him out, and by him, I mean Bing Bong, the elephant, and she took the time to talk to him. So empathy really helps us facilitate our interactions with people of different cultures, backgrounds, and experiences. This is especially true in the corporate world. In a professional setting, we know that there will be people there who might not, share the same opinions as you, and that's fine. So making sure that we are open to collaborating with them and that we are open to encouraging them to share their viewpoints without focusing on how their viewpoints differ from us. That is something very important when it comes to showing empathy, either in the workplace or in the classroom. And empathy oftentimes does lead to an opening of new ideas and ways to solve problems.
Right. So
Mhm.
also in corporate world, empathy is essential now in order to really understand what the customer is looking for. So
Yes.
we're seeing that a lot in corporate world where there's a great story I read a while ago about a company who they were all in the oil and gas, and I think one company was their computer or software developers, and so they saw in the data that somebody out in Odessa was having some issues, and so they called up the CEO and said, hey, we got this great product that we just developed. We think it's going to be great for you because we're seeing this and this is happening over in Odessa. What do you think? And so the CEO said, have you talked to my guys out in Odessa to see if this is really what they need? And the answer was, no, we haven't. So he told him, you go talk to the boys out in Odessa, and if this is what they need, then I'm all for it. But if it's not, I want you to develop something that they do need. So that's exactly what happened. The developers went over to Odessa, they sat down with that team, and they realized that what they thought was the problem was not the problem, and that there was something else that needed to be addressed first. So they were then able to talk it out and understand exactly what it is that the client was needing, and then go back and develop something that was better suited for them. And that's just the key. Nowadays we live in a
Yeah.
digital age. You and I can Google, we can solve problems. We are not satisfied with that one size fits all anymore. And so empathy has become a major, major component of creativity and innovation. So
Yeah.
this is one of those building blocks in order to get to that next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And honestly, some ways you can implement that in the classroom. Again, in the video, Joy and Sadness are in the mission to get back to the train station. Bing Bong just experienced the loss of a memorable item to him, which was the rocket ship that him and Riley shared. Although Joy thought she was doing her best to cheer him on, like making him laugh, changing the conversation, avoiding his loss, it wasn't helping. She was glossing right over, deflecting, and that is not effective leadership. Sadness, on the other hand, was simply reaffirming that it was sad that he lost something he cared for so much. She did not avoid the obvious. She understood the sadness, literally, of losing something. She took this negative event that had just happened into a positive one by telling him, you probably had great memories with Riley and ones that he was going to have with her, like going to the moon. She allowed him the space to express why it made him so sad. She literally got to his level and acknowledged that he had lost his rocket. And so as you can see, there's 6 ways. And out of these 6, I just quickly want to highlight 3, which is listen actively, show empathetic body language, and ask open-ended questions. So you can see that Joy was active listening. She also body language. She sat right next to him. And then you can see she kind of touched his hand a little bit. And because she gave Bing Bong the space to talk about what was going on, he felt comfortable enough to hug sadness. And then also asking open-ended questions, start with what, why, and how, because this gives the individual to explain themselves a little bit more instead of asking questions like yes or no, right? And so these are just some of the ways you can put that in the classroom. And sadness, as you can see, she adapted to the whole situation, which is actually our next power skill.
Okay, so adaptability. So I'm going to give you a real quick introduction in adaptability.
If I had to pick one and say to someone, this is what you need to do to be successful throughout your career, adaptability is it. And the reason is the world today is not the world we're going to be living in 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 15 years from now. And my observation in general is that people that can adapt do very well throughout their careers. And here's the challenge. People often say, and I think this is totally false, that young people are much more adaptable than old people. Given that I'm one of the old people, I don't buy that, all right? But I think what it is people that are right out of school seem like they're more adaptable because they don't know anything else. So of course they're going to do the new technology or the new organizational trick or the new whatever the new thing might be. They don't know any different. But some of those people are very adaptable and some are not. And you don't really know that for 10 or 15 years after they've been in the workforce, and things begin to change, and then the people that are not very good at adapting struggle. And that's when you find out who wasn't really adaptable. But the reality again is the world changes. Things are different. The workplace is different than what it was when I graduated, but it's also different than it was 5 years ago. It's different than it was 10 years ago. Work is getting automated, which was bringing out new opportunities for different kinds of work, but you've got to be open to those ideas. And sometimes it has nothing to do with technology. For example, in news, the way we write stories today based on users' tastes and needs is very different than the way we wrote stories 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Our customers are looking for shorter pieces that get right to the point as opposed to the long form stories. That's a change. You have to be willing to roll with that change. So adaptability is by far the most important skill, aspect, whatever you want to call it, that people need to have throughout their lives.
I have to say, I completely agree with this guy said. The way we do work has changed dramatically from 3 years ago, right? So I think that we are constantly on a roller coaster of change, and in order to survive it, you have to become adaptable. So let's talk about what adaptability is. So according to one of several definitions I found, this is one I think I liked the most because it is the skill of molding your actions and your reactions to the changing environment around you. Specifically, it is the capacity to make appropriate cognitive, behavioral, or effective adjustments in the presence of uncertain or novel circumstances. So let's test this theory out. I'm going to give you an example. If I tell you, give me an equation that equals 3. And so you give me 1 + 2 = 3. Simple enough. Now let me put a restriction on it and say, okay, now give me an equation that equals 3, but you can't use addition. So what can you come up with?
We have 1 times 3, 5 minus 2, subtraction, 6 minus 3, 9 divided by 3, 4 minus 1, 1 times 3, Oh, someone said square root of 9.
Yeah, you got
Yay.
my answer. Woohoo! That's what I was looking
Yeah.
for.
Square root of 9 is 3.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yes.
There
Those
you
are
go.
great ones, y'all.
Excellent. So you see, there's another way there are more than one way to find an equation, right? One of the things that I found that was really confusing about when I was, really trying to define adaptability is that definition I read to you actually sounds a lot like flexibility. Sometimes we use them interchangeably, but there is a difference, a slight difference between the two. So flexibility allows you to bend around change. So for example, Anastasia and I do a lot of presentations together, and we had this one presentation not too long ago that we had to give right before a training class. And so we had to go to the training class, to the building, and actually deliver this presentation in the training room. The problem was is that we had another set of team members that were also
In
scheduled
the
to give a
same room.
presentation at the same time in the same room. So we had two virtual presentations going on simultaneously in the same room. Then on top of that, we also had people coming into the room because they were gathering for the training and not aware that we were presenting, we're carrying on like normal. So we had that going on. About 3 slides into this presentation, guess what? The host of the
local
provider,
provider,
the local provider says, you're supposed to be giving us a presentation on work in Texas,
not Workforce 101.
right? And we're like, oh,
Yeah,
oops.
and we immediately changed gears. Victoria stopped sharing her screen, and I started sharing my screen. And so I was just showing the website of Work in Texas, while Victoria, on the other hand, was pulling up the other PowerPoint and just making sure it had everything it needed. So we were like, okay, here we go. We're like, no worries.
Yeah, we had to, there's a perfect example of having to pivot fast, right? So you just have to pivot. You can't blink an eye. You just got to be flexible. That's a really good example of flexibility. Now, let's talk about adaptability, because that's the ability to maintain the bend long term. So here's an example of adaptability. COVID happens. Everybody has to go home. We can't work from our office anymore. We're not giving in-person presentations, but to keep our job security, we have to adapt to a virtual reality. So what do we start doing? We have to completely remodify all of our presentations from an in-person presentation style to now a virtual presentation style, and figuring that out as we go. So 3 years later, we're very accustomed and very good at presenting our entire curriculum and all of our presentations virtually. Guess what? Now we're starting to go back into the classroom, right? So a lot of my team members were hired during COVID, so they only understood how to do the presentation virtually. Now they have to learn how to do it in person as well. So you can see what's happened. We've had to really adapt to a whole new situation, and then again, adapt again to another new situation. So that's adaptability, but you're maintaining it. You've changed your focus, you've changed the way you do things, and you're maintaining it. That is the difference between flexibility and adaptability. Now, you have to have cognitive flexibility in order to be adaptable. So that is something else that is highly crucial and important in the skill set of adaptability, because you can be flexible without being adaptable. But if you're flexible, it doesn't always mean that you are adaptable. Because, we've had students who, yes, they changed, they were flexible when they had to go to virtual, but their preference is in person, and they were able to go to in person. That's where they wanted to be. They wanted to learn in an in-person environment as opposed to a virtual environment, right? Okay, so here's some exercises that you could do in your classroom. I came across this TED Talk in my research, and it was about a venture capitalist who goes around and she interviews startup companies. She interviews the founders of these new startup companies to see if they have what it's going to take to see this, to really grow this new business, this new concept, this new idea. And so instead of just asking behavioral questions or asking about, their IQ and their intellectual capacity, or even their emotional quotient, she wants to know, what is their adaptability quotient? So what she does in the interview is she asks what if scenarios. So this will give her an opportunity to see, okay, how fast can this person think? Can they pivot? Can they change their way of thinking? Can they see things differently? So you could start off by, we've got this example of you're trapped in a desert island. What things do you bring with you? And then you start adding restrictions like, okay, you lost your, one of your key tools that you brought with you. What are you going to do? How do you adapt? You start putting, like I did on that equation problem, I started giving you restrictions. So it causes you to start simulating different scenarios in your mind. Another thing that this venture capitalist talked about was unlearning something. So she gave a great example of this gentleman who he had an electric bicycle and he figured out a way to rewire it so that when you turn the steering left, the bike will actually go right. And if you turn it right, it's going to actually go left. I don't know how he did that. I don't know how you can ride that thing, but he figured it out. And it took him about 8 months to relearn how to ride that bicycle.
That's a long
So,
time.
yeah, it took a minute. It
But
sure
he did it. He did
But
it.
he did it, right? So again, that whole concept of unlearning something and then and learning a new concept, a new way of doing something is another great way to really flex those adaptability muscles. And it also proves that yes, you can learn how to adapt. That is a skill set that can be developed. So another way to maybe unlearn something is everybody writes with their dominant hand. Learn how to write with your non-dominant hand, right? That's another great way to, and that works well because now you're developing the other side of your brain. Another really quick way to work on adaptability is to break a bad habit and then replace it with a new one. That's a very tough thing to do because we are creatures of habit. And even though we have bad habits that we know we need to change, if we're not consistent, like that guy took him 8 months to learn how to ride that new bicycle. It takes some time, but then you overcome it and guess what? You learn something new. So those are really great ways that you can help your students develop adaptability. Okay, so from that, adaptability then opens up the doorway for new things.
Yeah, to creativity, because I like how you mentioned about COVID, because actually, we had to be creative on how to transition from, in person to virtual. And you may or may not have like expected creativity to be a power skill, but it is a top power skill. And individuals may not often consider themselves to be creative or, consider creativity to be something they're skilled at. You might immediately think of a painter, a poet, a musician, etc. In reality, it's a whole different exploration than what we know. So we make ourselves small when we say, "Oh, I'm not creative. I've never been." But have you actually stopped and realized that you actually are? It's not always an author, a chef, or even a photographer. In other words, you might think of people who make things. I think that's when we use labels as creative type, but there is no such thing as creative type. We are all creative. And as you can see the example right there where it says we want a society that encourages innovation and creativity. We're actually going to talk about it in the next slide about how they differ, because you might think they're the same. What do you think innovation is to you? Someone said to come up with something different or new, creating new ways to do things. Okay, that's some good ones. Developing new skills, techniques, something new use of new device, new strategy or process. Simply put, it's about successfully implementing a new idea and creating value for your students, employees, or customers. It starts with this new idea. It could be a plan for an improved product, project, task, etc. It could be or an updated method for running your tests, right? Planning with a measured outcome, yes. And that is innovation. The creativity, even if you work in retail, an office job, professional athlete, or an educator, you're probably using creativity to make decisions and solve problems on a daily basis.
Right.
It's both a skill and a process. And with any other skill, it's something you get better at with practicing. You might think, oh, Anastasia, I don't have time to sit down and create something new every day. So this is where we realize the difference between using creativity and actually creating something. In a lot of ways, creativity is all about how you see things. So yeah, you can use it to create poems or painting, but you can also use it in practical ways, like coming up with an alternative solution for a work project,
Problem
or
solving.
even the simplest things like organizing things in your home. You might like, oh, maybe I want the TV here now. How should I rearrange my bookcase? I want to change my coffee table here. I think it'll look nice. So next time you think I'm not as creative as some other people, take a step back and kind of think about the things you do on a day-to-day basis, because creativity is marked by the ability or power to create. It's literally the foundation of brainstorming. We've all brainstormed something, whether it was a paper we had to write, fixing a flat tire, or even how to avoid big rain puddles when it's pouring. You're thinking of strategies of like, oh, okay, how do I get from my car to the building inside, or vice versa, right? You're being creative in the moment. And so some exercises you can do in your classroom, implement in the workplace. There's 3, which is a paperclip game, add something new and strange flavor. So with the paperclip game, you essentially give individuals paperclips and ask them to make something different other than using it to clip papers. And I had to use this in a classroom, and it was so cool seeing people make necklaces, rings, earrings, belts, keychains. I was like, wow, that's really cool. Add something new that's mostly for paintings or portraits. So for example, the Mona Lisa, asking them, what else can you add to the painting? Maybe give her a really nice sharp eyeliner look, a hat, maybe a cloud here and there, lightning, whatever the case may be. Get them thinking about like, okay, well, what is something I can add? Anything is open.
Besides a mustache. And
yeah, a mustache too. Sorry, Mona Lisa.
A tattoo.
Yeah. And then the last one, which I think is really cool, with strange flavors, because we're all fans of ice cream, at least pizza, potato chips, or sandwiches, thinking of ways of different ice cream flavors, different pizza toppings, potato chips, or sandwiches. Especially, I don't know if y'all recall Lay's. They had an open contest for people to submit ideas of different chip flavors. And there was one that I really liked, which was sausage and gravy chips. And I was like, wow, this is great. There was a sriracha one and a dill pickle one. So I think those were great. But yeah, these are just really great exercises.
Out of the box thinking. That's what
out of the box
is.
thinking. And with out of the box thinking, that actually leads into our final power skill before we get to our superpower skill, which is leadership. The action of leading a group of people or an organization. I think fool you into thinking you're eating your dinner. True. Yeah, honestly. But I'm sure everyone in here knows a superhero or is a really superhero fan of movies, whether it be Marvel or DC. But in the next clip, I'm going to show you quickly a video, and I'm going to emphasize on Captain America because he is the leader of the Avengers. I know y'all probably thought it was Iron Man, but it's actually Captain America. So we'll watch that.
Five years ago, we lost. All of us. We lost friends. We lost family. We lost a part of ourselves. Today, we have a chance to take it all back. You know your teams, you know your missions. Get the stones, get them back. One round trip each. No mistakes, no do-overs. Most of us are going somewhere we know. That doesn't mean we should know what to expect. Be careful. Look out for each other. This is the fight of our lives. And we're gonna win. Whatever it takes. Good luck.
He's pretty good at that,
right? Awesome. Yeah, so I love that scene. So I mean, I got me riled up.
Yeah, it
so.
does.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you caught on to certain phrases and words Captain America was saying like, we lost, we have a chance to take it back. This is a fight of our lives. Look out for each other. Never once is he mentioning or making it about himself. Oftentimes we might express, well, I don't have leadership skills, or I don't think I could lead a group. But here's the thing. In the Avengers, in that group, the clip you just saw, every single individual in that clip carries an important role. They were leading something important in that role. If you've seen the film, or even if you haven't, you know that the reason they were all able to go back in time was because of Ant-Man, and why they were able to shrink down was because of Ant-Man. How they got the technology and everything is because Hulk, and Hulk, aka Dr. Bruce Banner, is incredibly smart, and also Iron Man, he's a genius, right? And everyone had roles of who was going where, who was doing what. It was all the collaboration, inclusivity of it. When you are leading others, motivation becomes a daily task that you cultivate with every action that you make. And so with the previous power skills we mentioned, leaders who are socially conscious, do practice critical thinking, adaptability, creativity, and empathy. And then you might thinking, well, I don't know what my skills are, my traits. Well, actually something that you in your classroom or your coworkers can do is a self-assessment, actually. And we do have a YouTube video of the regional team. We made a video of taking the self-assessment, specifically the 16 personalities test. It's a great way to understand what kind of leader you might be. The assessment gives you a wide range of tabs that tell you what kind of individual you are. You find out your strengths and weaknesses, the type of career paths most suitable for you, the kind of friendships and relationships you lean towards to. It takes roughly about 10 minutes, even less, to complete a wide range of statements like, I make friends easily, I feel my emotions deeply, or you often have a backup plan for the backup plan, and you just put like agree, disagree. And once you answer it, it'll tell you your personality. So if it starts with an I, I'm sure if you can see the screen, it's mostly introverted type. E would be extroverted. So understanding what your strengths are, knowing the leadership traits you possess. For example, I am an INFJ, also known as an advocate. So some of my weaknesses are prone to burnout and avoiding the ordinary. So yes, so because although our favorite leaders are superheroes possess great qualities, they also have weaknesses. An imperfect person makes a perfect leader. And so lastly, we're going to talk about the superpower.
Okay, so what we've talked about so far is leading up to one of the biggest power skills. I think it's actually called a superpower, because it takes a lot of time to develop this, and you really have to retrain your brain to see things differently. And so this is, drum roll please, it is emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? It is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, as well as recognize and influence the emotions of those around you. So it's more than just mastering your own emotions, but also recognizing what's going on around you and able to guide other people into a different emotional setting. So that is the mark of someone who is really good at emotional intelligence. It's also the mark of a good leader. So you can see why emotional intelligence is a superpower. If you can diffuse somebody who is up here enraged, and you're able to diffuse them down, get them calm, and to a much more manageable and actually happier mood, you are a master at emotional intelligence. From here, there are 4 components of emotional intelligence, and that is self-awareness, which is that foundational step. So once you become self-aware of what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and also your emotions, when you're able to recognize what you're feeling at any given point, that is self-awareness. Then from there, you move into self-management. So self-management is about being able to handle your emotions and your feelings. Oh, something interesting that I found is that according to a organizational psychologist, she did a lot of research. Her name is Tasha Eurich. She said that 95% people think they are self-aware, but in truth, only 10 to 15% truly are self-aware. And again, this leads to a lot of issues. If you're not self-aware of your own emotions, then this can cause a lot of problems in team environments at work, because believe it or not being self-aware can diminish your team's success by half, and also increase your stress levels and decrease motivation. So once you become self-aware, the next point is then to do self-management, so that you learn how to manage your emotions and deal with them, and so that you're not reacting to situations. Because let's face it, situations, sometimes you have an automatic response. You have to train yourself not to follow that, that knee-jerk response, but to kind of step back, put space in between you and the problem, and take, a quick inventory. Okay, what's going on? Why am I angry? And then I'm about to kill this person. Let me pull back and not do that and figure out a much better way to handle this situation, so that you can transition very quickly and remain calm. And sometimes it's just the ability of recognizing that, okay, that's not going to work. So the next one is social awareness. Now, not only are you understanding yourself, the next is to take it out to the public. So social awareness is just being able to walk into a room and understand, oh, something's going on here. I feel the tension. I see the tension. What's happened? And being able to recognize it. And then relationship management, of course, is that ability to influence, coach, mentor others to resolve a conflict. So some of the ways that I highly recommend doing this is, we did a whole webinar on emotional intelligence, developing your superpower, emotional intelligence, and we did a two-part series. Part 2 really goes into this whole thing about the mood meter. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time to talk about it, but the gist of it is that what you're seeing here is, down here, the y-axis is your level of pleasantness, and your x-axis is your level of energy. So the idea is to pinpoint where you are on the chart. So if you're feeling high energy and you're in a positive mood, then you're going to be somewhere up here. If you're high energy but you're in a not positive mood, in a low pleasantness mood, you're going to be over here, kind of more in the angry section. Same thing, if you are low energy, but you're still positive, you're going to be over here in the green. You're more content, you're restful, it's more zen. And then over here on the opposite side is depression, and the worst part of it is despair. So, but in work or in a classroom, sometimes you have to motivate your students to get into the right mood or frame so that they can maybe do brainstorming. Brainstorming, you want to be up here. If you're going to write a persuasive paper, you want high energy, but you want to be a little bit negative because you're getting angry and you need to, persuade. So you're going to be over in this area. Then if you're doing concentrated work, you got to pull yourself down, and you kind of got to get into this low blue energy so that you have that anger or that low pleasantness to propel you through that really high concentrated work. Whereas easygoing, this might be more of a place to be when you have to do maybe reading, something more reflective. Okay, so from here, meta moment. Again, when you get triggered, here's some really great steps. Sense the shift, stop, pause, put some space between you and your situation, focus on your best self, and then strategize how to act using positive self-talk, reframing the situation so that it's not about you, it's about the situation, and then you can act from there. All of these things are, interchangeable, but these are high-level functioning power skills that really help not only for you to think and react better in your classroom, but I think also personally too. I know Anastasia mentioned earlier, we do have a podcast. It's called Get Ready for Your Career Podcast. It's Workforce Solutions Regional Team is the name of our YouTube channel. And you're welcome to check this out. It's a lot of great information. It is aimed at your adult education and literacy students.
We hope you enjoyed this pre-recorded webinar. After you have passed the final test with a score of 80% or greater and have received your certificate of completion, please take a few moments to complete the course evaluation. Participant feedback helps Train PD at TCAL continue to provide high-quality professional development. To leave a course feedback, please go to the completed portion of your transcript. To do this, hover over the My Learning tab and select View Your Transcript. Click on the drop-down arrow next to the word Active and select Completed. Then, click Evaluate in the drop-down menu next to the course you just completed. Please note that your feedback is greatly appreciated.